Coming up on today's edition of Notable New England, my Wicked Lite Bites segment kicks the podcast off with some lighthearted news stories from each New England state. Then I will be talking with Laura Campagna, also known as the Wednesday Witch, who is a writer, teacher, and healer from Boston, Massachusetts. Laura has been reading tarot and studying astrology since she was the age of 13. We're going to be discussing the winter solstice, its meaning, and how you can lean into the season and find little moments of joy. Plus, Laura is going to be sharing some 2025 astrological information so you can be better equipped to harness the energy in the new year. Get ready for a great show. Hello, lovely listeners. Welcome back to Notable New England. I am your host, Gretchen B. I hope everyone is doing well. Winter has officially begun. The holidays are coming up on us in less than a week. Everything seems like it has come up so quickly. I am loving seeing all of the winter and holiday decorations and lights everywhere. It's really giving me lots and lots of warm and fuzzy feels. Before we begin, I want to send a special thank you to Kathy for joining my medium iced Patreon tier, and to Bonnie for joining my regular Patreon tier. I am very grateful for your support, Kathy and Bonnie. Thank you for being such an integral part of keeping this podcast thriving. If you would like to be like Kathy and Bonnie and become a Notable New England patron, you can visit patreon.com/Notable New England. I have various tiers starting as low as $2 a month, less than your morning cup of coffee. And you can get some cool perks to boot. Your support goes to ensure the long-term success of the podcast. It helps to cover production costs as well. And again, you can visit patreon.com/Notable New England for more information. Thank you for your support. And now, let's move on to our Wicked Lite Bites section, my roundup of lighthearted and fun news stories from each New England state. So how would you like to smell like a Dunkin' Donuts Boston cream donut? How about a strawberry frosted, a vanilla sprinkle, or blueberry cobbler donut? Well, you now can with Native's Dunkin' Donuts inspired deodorants and body care products. Native is a brand that is known for its aluminum-free deodorants. They have partnered with Dunkin' Donuts to make this limited time collection of donut-inspired scents. And prices range from $10 to $14. The deodorants and body care products are available to order online via Native's website as well as Walmart. Did you know that Stephen King, the master of horror, also owns radio stations in Maine? Well, sadly, 3 stations he's owned since the 1980s, WZON, WKIT, and WZLO, will be going off the air permanently at the end of this year. The stations had never been profitable, and Stephen King would cover the revenue losses personally. According to the author, who is 77 years old, he is shuttering the stations, quote, to get his business affairs in order. He also says, quote, while radio across the country has been overtaken by giant corporate broadcasting groups, I've loved being a local independent owner all these years. I loved the people who've gone to these stations every day and entertained folks, kept the equipment running, and given local advertisers a way to connect with their customers. Tabby and I are proud to have been part of that for more than 4 decades. That's sad news to hear. Have you noticed the recent trend of celebrity lookalike contests popping up everywhere? They feature stars like Timothy Chalamet, Harry Styles, Noah Khan. But here's a uniquely Vermont twist. There was a Bernie Sanders lookalike contest recently at the City Hall in Burlington. According to Vermont Public's Catherine Hurley, 8 contestants participated, channeling Bernie at different stages of his life. And the grand prize was a sandwich bag stuffed with $17, the amount that Sanders has long championed as the federal minimum wage. John Braunstein of Putney, Vermont, walked away the winner, and his resemblance must be spot on because he joked, quote, "So many people come up to me and say, 'Are you Bernie Sanders?' Especially people who have poor eyesight." The Exeter, New Hampshire Festival of Trees raised more than $52,000 for the Community Children's Fund, which provides winter bedding and clothing to children in need. Quote, "Because of the generosity shown by our many supporters, we can expect to help hundreds of families next year as well," said Bonnie Galinsky, co-founder of the Festival of Trees. So there were 52 decorated trees that were up for auction. They had an online auction. The Bayside Distributing Tree received the highest bid of $4,000, and the RJ Ace Hardware Tree received the second highest bid of $3,200. Trees are decorated by community members and businesses in a variety of themes, and some of this year's highlights were a Winnie the Pooh tree decorated by McFarland Ford, a Narnia tree decorated by M.D. Weaver Corporation, and a Nutcracker dollhouse tree that was decorated by Kat Murphy. This story came from Seacoast Online. 2 local girls collected $1,200 in can and bottle deposits to give to the Bristol Police Department's Toys for Tots initiative in Connecticut. Macy Hopkins, who is 8, and her friend Kylie Berrien, who is 10, were both winners of the Miss Chrysanthemum pageant, and they collected all these cans and bottles. They used the funds to purchase 250 toys and gift cards for the Toys for Tots fundraiser. Macy's dad said, quote, "We are very proud of the amazing job that Macy and Kylie have done." He said Macy is very excited about how much she and her friend were able to collect this year and knows that the Bristol Police Department will be able to provide more toys for children. This story comes from Brian M. Johnson from the Bristol Press. From a story by Sarah Bodden and Mike Montecalvo for WPRI 12, a Rhode Island nonprofit has been working with low-income families to ease the burden of financial stress by paying for families to have their laundry washed and dried. The organization is called Laundry Love, and it was launched last year. It's funded entirely by grants and donations, and they operate out of 2 laundromats, Mickey's Laundromat off of Bellevue Avenue in Newport and Ocean State Laundry on West Main Road in Middletown. The program is offered the 2nd and 4th Thursdays of every month in Newport and Middletown, Rhode Island, respectively. Time slots are between 4 and 5 p.m., and they are first come, first served. And then the remaining slots between 5 to 7 p.m. must be signed up for in advance. Families are limited to 3 loads each, and volunteers are on hand to assist with paying for each of the loads. The program is made possible by the Newport County Prevention Coalition. And if you'd like to find out more information about volunteering or making a donation, please take a look at my show notes because I will provide a link for you. After this quick break, I will be back with the Wednesday Witch, Laura Campagna. We'll delve into the magic of the winter solstice, we'll discover ways to find joy during this season, and we'll explore her astrological insights for 2025 to help you make the most of the year ahead. You are listening to Notable New England. Want to help out the Notable New England podcast for free? If you're listening to the show and you're enjoying it, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Your review helps others discover the podcast and join our community of listeners. Another easy and free way to help: share Notable New England with a friend or family member. Even just one recommendation makes a huge difference. But if you want to share with more people, we would love that too. So remember, sharing is caring, and it's a huge help in growing the podcast. Thank you for being a part of this journey with me. I'm delighted to welcome Laura Campagna to the podcast today. Known as the Wednesday Witch, Laura is a Boston-based astrologer, tarot reader, energy healer, writer, and teacher. She has been reading tarot and studying astrology since she was just 13 years old. I wanted to invite Laura on the podcast to help us explore the winter solstice. Here in New England, let's face it, winter is not everyone's favorite season. The early darkness, the cold weather, it really can be a tough sell, I know. But what if we could shift our perspective? Laura is here to help us lean into the season, understand its deeper meaning, and find small but powerful ways to celebrate it. And who knows, by the end of this conversation, you might even look forward to the winter months, or at least find ways to brighten them. On top of that, Laura is going to share a couple of insights into the astrology for 2025 and how we can use the energy to our benefit. So let's dive in. Welcome, Laura. It's wonderful to have you here on the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Gretchen. It is such a delight to join you on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. I have to say, I've always found the ancient solar calendar fascinating. The idea that each season has its own purpose, like spring, is for planting seeds, summer to grow those seeds, fall to harvest what has become of those seeds and weeds and all of that stuff, and winter for resting and hibernating. And it really resonates with me. And I read your book, Pagan Baby, which is amazing. I loved it. It actually helped me to gain a much deeper appreciation for the winter solstice and the cyclical nature of the seasons. So for those who aren't as familiar, could you share a bit about the significance of the winter solstice in the ancient solar calendar?
Absolutely. Well, as you mentioned, here in New England, winter can feel quite long because people often conflate just cold weather or wet and snow with winter. And actually, each season is just 3 months, right? No season is longer than any
That's
other.
right. Yeah.
Summer might fly by, winter might feel like it's dragging on, but truly each season, it's all equal. And we have these little quarters of the year where different energy is really active. So the solar calendar, I think it's hard for us to imagine as modern people what it was like to be so dependent upon the sun. And, I have had the opportunity of camping for long periods of time where, like, the fire is your TV and the stars are your big entertainment, and the moon is very much like your lamp by night. And so, with the, waxing and waning of the moon each month, we understand that as corresponding to different growth cycles. But the sun is very regular, and it is generally doing the same thing for a longer period of time, but the sun itself also has a cycle. So there is a solar period of the year when there is more day than night, and a lunar period of the year when there's more night than day. And the peak of the solar period is the summer solstice, when we have the longest day and the shortest night. And immediately it starts to wane, and we are headed towards the autumn equinox. And that is one of the only 2 days of the year when there's perfect balance. And the sun and the moon kind of like hand off the year to each other, the torch, as it were. And then we come to the winter solstice, which is a period when it's, traditionally considered to be this very long, dark, emptying out period in the year. And each month, the moon goes through its waxing and waning cycle where it's full, and then it goes all the way to darkness, and it dies and is reborn in the heart of the sun. Well, the sun also has its own cycle where it kind of dies and is reborn to itself. And that happens on the winter solstice. And that is when the sun moves into the sign of Capricorn, which is an earth sign. It's about energy that kind of turns inward. And during the winter months, we spend much more time indoors. And there is this opportunity on the solstice to kind of plant seeds in this cauldron of darkness, that will, as you mentioned, grow, like germinate all through the what feels like long winter months. So winter solstice is kind of this dreaming into the dark period.
For many people, as I mentioned here in New England, winter can feel more like an inconvenience than a time of rest. A lot of people struggling with seasonal affective disorder make it kind of hard to embrace. But what are some meaningful ways that people can celebrate the winter solstice, or at least incorporate the energy of it into their lives, so that it doesn't feel as dire and dark and that sort of thing?
Yeah, because nature is never actually fully inactive, right? Like nature, even when, so you mentioned the seasons can kind of help us to live in harmony with the rhythm of the earth, right? And so during winter, the land is dormant, it's fallow, it's not producing, and it's actually resting and taking a much needed rest. So as modern people, we live in a time of kind of unprecedented abundance and convenience, right? Like I am used to having broccoli and avocados and tomatoes and oranges all year long. And I can't kind of imagine too much what it would be like without that. But actually, if we in New England were dependent upon the land to produce our food exclusively, we wouldn't be eating a lot of the things that we are accustomed to during the winter. And what the winter can invite us to do is actually simplify, let go of some of the like hectic demands of like, I have to always be on the go. I have to always be doing the most. I have to always be, producing at 100, because that isn't what the earth does. Like the earth takes a long winter's nap because she needs it, and we need it, and our nervous systems need it, and our imaginations need it. So one of the really fun, you mentioned, the solar calendar has it's an ancient practice to observe these days when the light is longest or shortest or perfectly equal. But the pagan and Wiccan community has really created these based on a lot of like ancient Celtic traditions. There's been a revival, especially since the 1970s, of how do I live in harmony with nature. The environmental movement really supported this reclamation of our ancient pagan traditions. So, on the winter solstice, we can celebrate Yule, which is a time of creating a little Yule log, which if you've never been to a solstice party, they're very fun. Usually there's a bonfire and you create a Yule log,
Mhm.
which you can just like get from, wherever, if you have a yard where you can collect a log or a big stick. Or buy one at your local hardware store, some firewood. But you can decorate it with beautiful ribbons. We obviously have the Christmas holiday, when the divine child, the Son of God, is born. And the church itself has acknowledged that Jesus's birthday was not actually um December 25th. And as a Capricorn, the joke is that we would never die for anyone's sins. So I think based on the Bible, there's like some indications that Jesus was born more in like the spring, Aries or Taurus, which kind of makes more sense, but maybe Pisces too, but end of winter. But this idea of the sun being connected to lemons, to oranges, this kind of citrus fruit representing the solar principle that even when it dies can never be extinguished. And so on if you like, on the solstice, you can create this log, sometimes with dried citrus fruits and, little cranberries and things like that. And then write what you're leaving behind in this past year, and also what you want to call in, with kind of the acknowledgement that this is not going to manifest right away. Capricorn energy is the slow foundational build. It takes a long time to manifest. Once it manifests, it's very powerful and it can construct great things. But you know, New Year's resolutions tend to be broken rather quickly. I think people notice. But if you set intentions that you would like to see realized in the spring, then you give yourself kind of this creative space and permission of winter to dream into them. That might be through literal like dream journals, writing down, yeah, kind of what you notice, because there's like everything's more sparse in winter, so it's actually kind of more easy to connect with the land in some ways. And also, yeah, just art, visual art. I always like to say that if people are interested in reading tarot, doing a daily card pull in winter is like the best way to fight the winter blues and
Oh,
actually get really
yes,
good at
yes.
tarot. If anyone remembers the winter of 2015, which was like the last time we had some like really nasty snow emergencies. Yeah, we had I think 6 blizzards a week in 6 weeks. And I actually really became I had been reading tarot for 20 years at that point, and I became like a master because I just sat around and meditated with the deck in a way I never had. Yeah, I think that starting the winter with a ritual practice can help us to connect our intentions with deeper meaning. And then, actually, around what's called Imbolc, on February 1st, you kind of check in with yourself. You're like, how am I doing? It's 6 weeks until the vernal equinox, when the sun really is like reborn in Aries and we start the solar time of the year. So you have this midway point on February 1st to kind of see, like, do these intentions still serve me? But at the solstice, you get to really let your imagination run wild.
Just put it out there. Put it, I
Hmm.
almost, as weird as this sounds, I'm almost envisioning like you're going to grow a garden in the spring. And so, like, you go to the store and you get your seeds and you have those like little plastic cups and you're like sticking the seeds
Hmm.
and you're like, I'm going to grow some tomatoes and I'm going to grow some. And then you like, you see how it does. And then, then you take it come the spring and you're like, oh, this one's doing really great. I'm going to put it in the ground. And I don't know,
Hmm.
I almost
Yeah.
see that with humans in a strange way, that like you're going to kind of plant those seeds of like, hey, what do I really want to have happen next year? What do I want to let go of? I'm going to let that kind of like sit and marinate for a little bit. I'll do a little check in February, and then, go from there. And it's almost like winter is reminding me too of just like, the stories you've been told as a little kid, like, oh, the bears, they go and they hibernate, they go into their
Mhm.
little dens and
Sure do.
they sleep and, store up all their energy so that the spring comes and, they're ready to go. So it's almost like we're sort of in a hibernation stage in a way, I guess, if that's accurate. But uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, kind of just storing up that energy from the busy year and just like use it as the time to really reflect and to, go easy on yourself, like you said.
To replenish, because we need that downtime. So we can feel, refreshed and renewed at the spring equinox.
Definitely. You can find a space. I know you mentioned like maybe above a fireplace, or if you don't have a fireplace, maybe you have like a little table or something where like you could set up, say, a picture of the sun,
Hmm.
some oranges, some lemons, other things like that.
I think that an altar space is just kind of essential for any home, because it's a place where you put things that remind yourself what is important. And for some people, that will be images of divinity, right? For other people, they find great significance and connection and meaning in the earth or family, or just kind of qualities of being like love and peace and justice. Definitely, when you're thinking about constructing a winter solstice Yule altar, you kind of want to consider, okay, what do I want my winter to be like? Do I want it to be more relaxing? Do I want it to be a time when I'm actually doing some kind of like internal foundations planning? Like you mentioned, planting a garden. Like, I have friends who are farmers, and they do like a really intense planning a whole project during the winter, where they're like, I know where all of my crops are gonna go. And I'm like, wow, you guys are really gonna plan it all out. So whatever it is for you, you can put things that will both help you to find the fortitude to make it through the winter, because winter is kind of a portal, right? It's a liminal space. We're not here and we're not there. We're in the new year, but it hasn't started yet. There are hopes for what will develop, but we're not sure it will actually be. So whatever you need to kind of give you a sense of resilience and strength to make it to the solar time of the year, and holly and candles, and the colors of the crimson and the green is very traditional for Yule, but also I would say, little Capricorn, like if you like goats, you can also, they're very cute. You can kind of get into that earthy imagery too.
So the altar, if I'm understanding this correctly, is more like when you set it up, it's almost like that reminder of what the winter solstice is, what you are hoping to bring into the next year, a reminder to relax, a reminder to kind of step back, a reminder to kind of release some of the old stuff that you want to get rid of. And it just like it having it there is sort of like that daily, like, oh, yes, this is how I can honor the season and
Yeah.
just have that little visual reminder.
Absolutely. Some people have it in their bedrooms on like a little place of their bureau where it's not going to get knocked over. Some people have it on their mantle place. People have it in a special place, in their living room or their kitchen. Just, whatever it is for you. Some people like to have altars that are always set up, but they're changing with each season. But yeah, ideally, if you're putting your hopes and wishes forward, you have a way to kind of, reinforce that on a daily basis. So if you are doing a tarot card pull, you might keep your tarot deck there. So you're always returning to your altar every day and having a ritualistic interaction either in the morning or at night. Maybe if you like have some crystals, that's where you keep them. Just things that make you to feel empowered and connected. And you can also, you know, have a tarot card that you're working with per year based on your age. And that's a fun kind of thing to figure out. And every year there's like a general card of the year for the year that it is. And so you could have those tarot cards just like up there all the time. If you like, if that's how you want to work with it. But yeah, it's really your sacred space to create.
So you could just be
Yeah.
creative and come up with something that means a lot to you and that will help you, as you go through the winter season. One other thing that I've heard, some people will write down on the piece of paper or something, or little pieces of paper and whatnot, things that they do want to leave behind and that sort of thing. And some will actually burn those. And is that symbolism to sort of just like, okay, we're now releasing this into the ether and now we can have new beginnings and that sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, fire is purifying, right? Fire is that spark of life that initiates new things, and it also is how we cleanse. So, if you write something down and you burn it, then you're symbolically giving it away. And you're asking whatever spirit lives within you or moves you or that is like supporting your evolutionary growth in this lifetime, like, help me. I want to let go of this. And you can also write down things you want to bring in and burn those. Or maybe you keep that on your altar and you burn it at the solstice the next year.
Gotcha.
There's lots of different kind of ways to do it.
Gotcha. Any
Yeah.
other things about the winter solstice that maybe I did not ask or that you wanted to further share?
I think that just knowing that every season has its own kind of nature and energy, and when I think winter is hard because it can be difficult for people to slow down and spend time indoors. And actually, it's a really beautiful opportunity to kind of tend to your home and connect with your family and do all those projects that like darning your socks, right? That aren't very like glamorous, but they kind of help your overall life work better. And knowing, okay, winter might, you can hear in Boston people being like, "Oh, winter's here and it's November." And it's like, "No, it's not."
Right.
It's not here yet. But knowing winter is just 3 months, you know, um, it's actually a really special time to kind of transform your inner space, whether that's your emotional landscape or your living environment.
Mhm. And you also in your book, you had mentioned about just getting outside too, if you can, which
Mhm.
obviously, that's going to help if you have seasonal affective disorder,
Yep.
or
Yep.
just, I just having the change of scenery and that sort of thing. So, it's not just like, hey, you've got to be indoors to do this stuff. You can go outside, you can just embrace the
Oh, yeah.
weather, just dress warmly. But, those kind of activities might, help as far as energy as well.
Yeah, and noticing how the light is growing and kind of cultivating that relationship with, oh, I'm in what feels like the darkest period, but actually the light is expanding every day on the other side of the solstice. So there's this hope that grows in the darkness. And that can be a really nice practice too if you go outside and you're like, oh, I got to spend an extra 15 minutes on my walk today because now it's February, right? It's
Yeah,
not December. So yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. After this quick break, Laura and I will be discussing the astrology for 2025 and how you can harness its energy. You're listening to Notable New England. Let's get social, lovely listeners. Follow Notable New England on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, TikTok, and YouTube. Give Notable New England a follow and let's engage. Thanks for supporting the podcast. So, turning to astrology, we are on the brink of a new year. What are some key astrological themes or energies that people maybe want to keep in mind as we head into 2025? And how can we harness those energies to set ourselves up for a positive and aligned year ahead?
Great question. I think a lot of people um, are looking at 2025 and really wondering what's going to happen. And astrologically, it's been known and this would be a year of tremendous shifts and challenges for a while. We just didn't know exactly what would be the nature of that. So, um, if you follow astrology, you know that every time a planet changes a sign, its sign, crosses a sign boundary, there is some sort of activation in a new part of life. And there's this kind of dynamic interplay between okay, you have this energy in a different place. What is that like? Is it harmonious? Is it comfortable? Is it discordant? Is it a little bit rough? Um and keeping an eye on when those shifts happen can be incredibly helpful.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. And then the other thing is that when there's years that we have several planets go retrograde that do not go retrograde every year, we know that that is going to be a year in general when there's more reconsideration and we're going to have to pause and we're going to have to kind of take a step back and reconsider like what's the best way forward. So, for example, we're currently in a retrograde period with Mars at the end of 2024 and it's that retrograde is happening between the astrological signs of Cancer and Leo. So, we know that just starting the year with Mars retrograde in Cancer is gonna feel a little bit uncomfortable. And it's kind of adding to that winter quality because Mars is like our drive and our fight and our will. So if Mars is retrograde, it's kind of like we've got the brakes on or we don't have as much gas in our tank and we're like, like what is the right way forward? So yeah, sometimes, you hit winter and it's like, all right, this is the way forward. And sometimes it is a much slower kind of amping up. And so Mars retrograde in Cancer is making January feel a little bit tricky, especially at the end. The last 2 weeks look a little bit kind of yeah, more difficult. Then you've got March where there's Venus and Mercury retrograde in Aries, which is just a lot going on. So if you're in Aries, March is going to feel a little bit you know you might not be able to predict exactly what's going to happen in your life because there's going to be massive reconsiderations in terms of relationships, could be work, definitely communication stuff, travel. So, yeah, astrologically, I always warn people when there's like multiple retrogrades, just like don't plan on things going exactly the way you expected if you have a journey that you're about to embark on. The classic Mercury retrograde significations are like the luggage is lost, or the flight is canceled, or the email goes to the boss when it's about him, or, the text is like sent to the wrong person. And all of that is kind of to cause us to be a little bit more mindful and to not take ourselves so seriously and to be flexible. But then, yeah, there's massive shifts that are happening in the end of the spring and into the summer that are more like they're not the permanent change moves, they're more like the coming attractions for 2026. 2026 is when there are multiple major planets moving into new signs and big things happen. 2025 is the year that kind of prepares us for the change.
Ah.
And, just for those who are familiar with astrology, Aries is a really hot area of life. So if you have your sun in Aries, or you've got planets there, you want to look at that. But Saturn is moving into Aries with Neptune, and that is going to usher in a huge change in 2026. But we're going to feel that, really click into place in the summer of 2025. And, that's a lot about personal responsibility. And that's a lot about, okay, what do I as an individual want to create in the world? And sometimes, unfortunately, historically, and we can see this today, there can be persecution of individuals during this time. And that's something to really consider, because it's all of our responsibility to like create the world we want to see. So it's definitely a, beautiful time to think about community. And each of us have a special role to play. And I think we're really going to feel that in 2025.
Very interesting. I've been hearing similar predictions about this, but also just a lot, I've been focusing myself on trying to build community. That's why actually I had this podcast, was because I really wanted to foster a sense of community, especially in times of trouble and things that are going on around the world that are very difficult. So that's interesting that the astrology is sort of pointing to that.
It is. It's actually the astrology similar to the Salem witch trials. So, yeah,
Interesting.
as New Englanders, we've got a history that is predates the inception of the United States as a nation state, right? So
Hmm.
we can kind of benefit from that long view of history relative to the colonization of the Americas, and think about, okay, well, what did we learn
Hmm.
from that, and what do we not want to repeat again?
So, some key points for people to remember: more mindfulness, being a little bit prepared for, or at least having the knowledge that things might be a little wonky and might not go your way. Instead of fixating on that, being able to kind of pivot and be mindful of those things. Like, take a little more care when you're typing the emails that you don't send it to your boss.
Definitely in March. Definitely in March. Yeah. I would say pay attention to the areas of life where it feels like change wants to happen or is just definitely coming. And be willing to make those changes, even if it feels like maybe you're not quite ready yet, because by 2026 you will know that you need to make that change. So usually the universe knocks first and gives us a
uh,
little preparation time. So, yeah, the mindfulness is good, especially, you don't have to just keep a journal in the winter. You can keep one all the time and kind of be like, oh, I feel like I should do this. And then you might find that that's really, yeah, reinforced later on.
Yeah. And then the focus on community, like you say, like do what you can in the world to make your community stronger. And again, it doesn't have to be something huge. It could be invite that neighbor over for a cup of coffee that you know is living by themselves, and just kind of foster a little bit of community with them. And or maybe you're going out and volunteering somewhere and like getting involved with the group and that sort of thing. But I just think the more like human connection we can have
Hmm.
is huge.
Absolutely. I think we're still in some ways coming out of the isolation of the pandemic, and this year is really gonna show us the importance of, doing what we each can. And then if all of us are showing up collectively, there's a tremendous amount of positive change that can happen for social good.
Now, as I mentioned at the top of the interview, you are an astrologer, a tarot reader, an energy healer, and
Yeah.
a teacher, in addition to being a writer. I discovered you from one of your Tarot 101 classes that you did at one of the local libraries. They're wonderful. They are so wonderful. So if you have any in 2025, people should totally go. But could you also tell the listeners about what type of services you offer and where they can reach you for more information, like your website or any other ways that they could find out more about you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm at lauracampagnasastrology.com, and I offer tarot and astrology readings, energy healing sessions. I teach classes on tarot and astrology at, yeah, local libraries in Massachusetts, also Newton Community Education. I'm offering a couple classes in the winter session. And I also write articles on different kinds of astrological related phenomenon. One just came out in the Boston Art Review about the spiritualist movement and the psychic phenomenon of Neptune and Pisces. So, yeah, if you're interested, you can check out my website and my Patreon for more information.
Excellent. And you are on Instagram as well, as I recall. And
That's right.
yeah,
Yes. And I do post, yeah, bi-weekly on Instagram, just like a little mundane astrology forecast, lauracampagna.astrology.
yeah, they are wonderful. I absolutely love following. I learned so much, and it's just like it's such a brightener to the day. It's just like, oh, great, some more information and something I can learn. And the cool thing about Laura too is that she does her readings and sessions online, so you can
Yep.
be in Hawaii, for instance, and you can book a
Yeah.
session with Laura, or
True.
maybe you live far away from Boston, and
Hmm.
you can schedule something online with her, so it's not just relegated to the New England area. You are worldwide.
Yeah, yeah, I do have clients worldwide. And then sometimes people are very local and want to come to my home office, and that can also at times be arranged. So, yeah, we're so lucky to have that.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Laura, for joining me today. It was such a pleasure to have you on. I hope that people gained some really good insight from this conversation. I know I did, and I feel like this really helps to embrace the winter solstice and the winter season, and to kind of know what's on deck for 2025 so we can really focus and, try to harness that energy.
Thank you. Yeah, and if folks want more ideas for how to celebrate the solstice, you can check out paganbaby.club, and there's the downloadable ebook there.
Oh, it's fabulous. Please go and do that. And folks, I'm going to put all of this information in the show notes so that you can just go and you can link to it. You can schedule a session with Laura. You can check out her book. You can check out her website so you can see, what else she has going on. Thank you again, Laura.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Notable New England. As we wrap up, I want to wish you all a joyful and peaceful holiday season. I'll be back with a brand new episode on January 5th, and we're kicking off the new year with something a little bit different. Instead of those tired old New Year's resolutions everybody talks about every single year, I'll be sharing some New England style resolutions that are sure to inspire and energize you for the year ahead. Plus, if you've ever thought about learning to play an instrument, or if you've ever wanted to learn to sing, you won't want to miss my interview with Massachusetts musician and music teacher Janet Feld. We talk about the incredible benefits of learning music. For instance, did you know it's great for your health? And prove that it's never too late to start. I hope you'll join me on January 5th for an episode full of motivation and inspiration to start your year off right. Until then, take care of yourself, be kind to those around you, and enjoy the season. Happy holidays, and I'll see you in the new year.